The galaxy had long lived by rules that were meant to protect order and life. Among those rules, one was sacred, unspoken yet understood across countless systems. Never threaten Earth. For centuries, alien empires, councils, and fleets had respected it. They spoke of humans as a species too small, too primitive, too insignificant to matter in galactic politics or war. Yet in their arrogance, many had whispered about humans, doubted them, and underestimated them. Silence had kept this peace. But arrogance grows quietly, like a seed in the dark, unnoticed until it blooms. Now, the Supreme Council of Veron had made a decision that would echo across light years and change the fate of their empire forever. From the marble halls of the council chambers, massive, shining with the light of distant stars, Councillor Veron spoke for all to hear. His voice, calm yet icy, carried through the communications network that spanned the galaxy. Earth is weak, he announced. It has no fleets to resist us, no weapons of interstellar power, and yet it dares to exist without obedience. Let this species understand the consequences of audacity. Let the galaxy witness our judgment. The humans must learn their place or perish. His words traveled instantly, faster than light, through galactic channels, through subspace relays, through networks that carried thought like speed. And across those same channels, the messages reached Earth. Satellites flickered, communication grids buzzed, and alien code flashed on screens, unintelligible to most, yet deeply alarming. Civilians looked up from their lives, noticing strange pulses in the sky, sudden gaps in signals, and a feeling of unease that seemed to settle like a weight over cities, forests, and deserts alike. Panic was quick to rise. Messages of warnings and confusion spread through every network, sparking chaos among ordinary citizens. Many did not know what was happening. Some believed Earth had been attacked. Others feared that the very survival of humanity was at stake. But amidst the panic, the leaders of science, intelligence, and military strategy acted swiftly. They recognized the pattern behind the alien codes. It was not just a threat, it was a test, a warning, and yet it held a hint of opportunity. Commander Kale floated silently in the observation bay of the orbital command station above Earth, his gaze fixed on the stars where the signals had originated. His jaw was tight, muscles tense, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. Every breath he took was measured, controlled, yet inside, a storm of emotion raged. Anger, determination, fear, and beneath it all, a spark of exhilaration. He spoke softly to himself, words carried on a whisper that seemed louder than any alarm around him. They don't know us. They think they can threaten us, intimidate us. But they have no idea what they are waking. Kale's words were not boastful. They were a declaration of truth, a recognition that humanity had endured, survived, and adapted, and that the species below, underestimated for centuries, was about to awaken fully. Across the planet, civilians felt the tension without understanding it fully. Screens that monitored satellites flickered with alien codes. Lights in control rooms blinked erratically, and scientists stared at monitors, analyzing signals, reading patterns, and decoding layers of alien interference. Children, unaware of the threat, saw strange flashes in the sky, imagining games of light or distant cosmic fireworks. But the adults knew better. They knew that the galaxy's most powerful council had spoken openly against Earth, a daring and dangerous move, and that humans had to respond with more than fear. The scientific leaders gathered in underground bunkers, reinforced with centuries-old technology, remnants of civilizations long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Here, beneath mountains, deserts, and oceans, the brain trust of humanity analyzed the council's signals. Their faces were tense, eyes reflecting the glow of holographic displays, hands moving over controls as they decrypted layers of alien communication. Every pattern, every pulse, every spike in energy contained messages of arrogance, challenges, and warnings. Yet within those same messages lay a clue, an opportunity that no other species could see. Humans had been underestimated for too long. Their intelligence, their ingenuity, and their ability to adapt were the Council's blind spots. Kale moved through the command corridors, checking status reports, coordinating teams, and speaking to pilots and engineers alike. He noticed the fear in some eyes, the natural reaction of humans when facing the unknown, but also noticed the spark of courage in others. Soldiers adjusted their uniforms, loaded spacecraft, and reviewed maneuvers. Engineers checked systems that were decades, sometimes centuries, ahead of the Council's assumptions. Scientists monitored the signals, predicting the Council's next moves, calculating every possible response. And all of them felt it. The thrill, the surge of adrenaline, the recognition that they had been underestimated, and that underestimation could become humanity's greatest weapon. Above Earth, satellites and orbital platforms began to hum with activity. Ancient devices, remnants of human history long hidden from alien eyes, pulsed with power. Energy flowed through circuits that had lain dormant for centuries, awakening systems that even the most advanced alien minds had never suspected existed. It was a hidden legacy, a gift from ancestors who had understood that one day, the galaxy might awaken humanity's need to defend itself. As these systems came alive, they generated shields, surveillance networks, and communication arrays that could reach across light years. They connected humans to machines, machines to satellites, and satellites to the very fabric of spacetime. Humanity's dormant power stirred, waiting for the moment to be unleashed. Meanwhile, the Supreme Council of Veron continued their debates, unaware of the full strength of what they had threatened. Earth is insignificant, Councillor Veron repeated to his peers, his voice filled with smug certainty. We are the galaxy. Our fleets are unmatched. They are primitive, weak, and unarmed. Threats from this world are laughable. Other councillors nodded, their scales glinting under the chamber lights, their eyes gleaming with pride. They did not yet understand the weight of underestimation. They did not know that in every corner of Earth, humans were watching, planning, and preparing to respond. On the surface, civilians noticed the subtle signs of change. Lights in cities flickered as power grids adjusted. Communications in rural areas strengthened as old networks reactivated. Scientists realized that these changes were not random. They were signals, strategic and intentional, part of a network that connected humanity in ways the Council could not comprehend. Every person involved, from the youngest technician to the oldest strategist, felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. Fear because the Council's threat was real and powerful. Exhilaration because humanity had hidden tools, intelligence, and courage that the Council could never predict. Kale returned to the observation deck, gazing out at the vast expanse of stars. Ships, satellites, and orbital platforms moved in silent precision, responding to calculations transmitted from the ground. They think they can intimidate us with words, Kale said, his voice low but carrying a weight of authority. They think we are weak, that we cannot respond. But they have forgotten the one rule they should never break. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And humans fight back. Below, across continents and oceans, teams coordinated. Engineers amplified energy flows, scientists predicted council moves, and military units prepared for mobilization. Even civilians, trained in emergency procedures, took part in preparation, moving to shelters, monitoring communication arrays, and standing ready to assist. Humanity's response was not chaotic. It was synchronized, precise, and terrifyingly effective. The Council's audacity had triggered something far greater than they could have imagined. A fully awakened species. The night sky above Earth lit with energy pulses as ancient devices activated. Satellites reflected the glow of humanity's preparation, and for the first time in centuries, the species that the galaxy had dismissed as insignificant stood ready to face the most powerful council in existence. Every heartbeat aboard every command station and every spacecraft carried the weight of history. Every breath carried the will to survive and the promise of vengeance against those who dared threaten them. Kale's eyes burned with determination. He thought of the children who would inherit the Earth, the families who would live because humans survived, and the future that now depended on their courage. We will not bow. We will not hide. We will not be erased, he whispered. And in that moment, every human listening felt the same truth resonating within them. Across the galaxy, the Council expected fear, weakness, and submission. Instead, what awaited them was intelligence, courage, strategy, and unity. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries, and now, that underestimation would become their greatest weapon. Every signal, every pulse, every movement above and below Earth was a message. Humans were awake, humans were aware, and humans would not be silenced or destroyed. And the suspense, the dread, the curiosity, and the awe the audience feels is profound. How could a species so underestimated, so dismissed, survive a threat from the galaxy's most powerful council? The answer would unfold in moments, in strategies, in courage, and in the awakening of a planet that had been underestimated for far too long. Humanity was ready. Beneath the surface of Earth, far below the cities, oceans, deserts, and mountains, humanity's hidden legacy stirred to life. For centuries, humans had prepared for moments like this, moments when the galaxy, in its arrogance, dared to threaten their home. Commander Kale walked through the vast underground corridors of the Central Command bunker, his boots echoing against reinforced walls. The hum of machinery filled the air, a deep, resonant vibration that matched the beating hearts of every human working tirelessly below. Scientists, engineers, pilots, and soldiers moved with focused intensity, each action a vital piece of a plan centuries in the making. Every eye was sharp, every mind alert, every hand steady. Humanity had no fleets in orbit, no advanced warships like the councils of the galaxy possessed. But what they did have was something far more dangerous. Intelligence, courage, and an ancient power buried deep within their own planet. Kale stopped before a massive console, its surface glowing with holographic displays of energy flows, satellite positions, and planetary defense grids. "Activate the primary nodes," he ordered, his voice firm yet calm. Around him, engineers typed commands with lightning speed, their fingers dancing over ancient keyboards integrated with advanced systems. Lights flickered across the walls as dormant circuits awoke. Energy began to pulse through conduits that had remained silent for centuries, surging beneath the Earth and into orbital platforms above. Every pulse resonated with purpose. Humanity's hidden force was coming alive. Far above, in orbit, satellites aligned, their systems awakening with precision. They scanned the void, tracking distant council ships and monitoring subspace signals. Alien fleets might believe Earth was defenseless, but the humans had been preparing silently for generations. Every ancient system, every hidden device, every plan painstakingly preserved through time began to hum with life. The Council had not anticipated this. They had thought Earth's weakness would make threats effective. They had thought fear and intimidation would silence humanity. They had been wrong. On the surface, civilians noticed subtle signs of change. Satellites flickered, communication networks strengthened, and emergency systems activated with uncanny efficiency. Scientists in laboratories pored over alien code, decrypting patterns and predicting the Council's next moves. Military units received precise instructions, coordinating with engineers and strategists below. Even those far from command centers felt the surge of anticipation. A deep, quiet thrill mingled with fear. Humanity was preparing not just to survive, but to respond in ways no council had ever imagined. Kale moved to the observation deck, gazing out at the pale blue planet, its cities lit with the glow of human ingenuity and determination. "They think we are weak," he said softly, almost to himself. "They think we cannot respond. But we will show them what it means to underestimate humanity." He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of history, of ancestors who had fought silently to preserve knowledge and power that would one day awaken. That weight was heavy, but it was also empowering. Humans had endured countless challenges, survived natural disasters, wars, and the indifference of a galaxy that dismissed them. Now, all of that history, all of that pain and resilience, converged into a single focused purpose: to defend their home. Energy flowed through the ancient devices beneath Earth, reaching into orbital platforms, connecting humans to machines, machines to satellites, and satellites to one another. It was as if the planet itself had awakened, lending its strength to its inhabitants. Lights pulsed rhythmically across the command centers, displays glowed with real-time updates, and engineers monitored fluctuations with meticulous attention. Every adjustment, every calibration, amplified the planet's hidden power. Meanwhile, the Supreme Council of Veron watched from their distant chambers, still confident in their belief that humans were insignificant. "They are primitive," Counselor Veron said, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Even if they scramble a few satellites or deploy minor defenses, it will not matter. They cannot stand against our fleets." Other council members nodded, their massive eyes reflecting pride and certainty. They did not yet understand the full magnitude of what they had provoked. Below, in bunkers and hidden bases around the world, teams worked tirelessly. Pilots simulated attack patterns, engineers checked propulsion systems for emergency spacecraft, and scientists prepared electromagnetic pulses and energy shields. Every plan was calculated, every response considered. They were ready to turn the Council's threat into an opportunity. The suspense grew with every pulse of energy, with every hum of machinery, and with every heartbeat of those preparing for the battle ahead. Kale walked past a row of young pilots, their faces set with determination. Some were barely out of their teens, yet their eyes carried the weight of responsibility. "This is our moment," he told them quietly. "The Council thinks we are small, weak, unimportant, but we are human, and humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans fight back. Remember that. Everything we do from here on will echo across the galaxy." The pilots nodded silently, feeling the surge of emotion and adrenaline that comes from knowing they were about to face the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and survive. On the surface, civilians began to feel the effects of the hidden systems coming online. Streets glowed with emergency lights, communication lines hummed with renewed energy, and people moved with a sense of purpose they could not explain. Even the natural world seemed to respond. Storms calmed in key regions, tidal patterns stabilized, and the planet's energy grids synchronized as though Earth itself were participating in its defense. Humans were no longer passive. They were awakening. Above, satellites aligned perfectly with orbital platforms, energy flowing between them in a web of light. Sensors detected Council ships moving in distant orbits. Signals monitored every pulse, every potential strike. Humanity's defenses were not visible to the Council, yet they were precise, powerful, and ready. Every system, every calculation, every preparation fed into a single truth: Earth was no longer weak. The species that had been underestimated for centuries was awake, intelligent, and united. Kale returned to the central command platform, observing the massive displays showing alien fleets at light-year distances. His mind raced through possibilities, calculating responses, strategies, and contingencies. But beneath all the strategy was emotion. The anger at being threatened, the pride in humanity's preparation, and the hope that Earth could finally assert itself in the galaxy. "They do not understand what they have done," he murmured. "They have awoken something they cannot control." The human teams moved with precision. Scientists monitored energy flows, ensuring that every orbital node and every planetary shield was ready. Engineers adjusted ancient systems, amplifying the power of the planet's core to stabilize satellites and communication grids. Pilots simulated intercepts, tactical strikes, and evasive maneuvers. Soldiers prepared for rapid deployment in case of ground incursions, though they hoped the Council would never reach the surface. Every human involved understood the stakes, felt the weight of history, and embraced the responsibility. And then, as if responding to human will itself, the planet's systems pulsed with life. Energy arcs illuminated the skies, satellites aligned with precise synchronization, and orbital platforms hummed with power. Humanity's hidden force had awakened, and the first signals of readiness echoed across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, humans were no longer passive observers of a larger, indifferent galaxy. They were active, alive, and dangerous in ways the Council had never imagined. The Council, still confident in their assumptions, watched distant monitors showing minor fluctuations around Earth. "It is only minor activity," Counselor Veron said, trying to mask unease. They cannot threaten us. Even if their planet pulses with energy, it is nothing. But doubt began to creep into the minds of other council members. Strange fluctuations, unexpected readings, and unpredicted movements disrupted their calculations. The humans were unpredictable. The humans were awake. Back on Earth, Kale watched the final sequences come online. Ancient systems hummed, orbital shields glowed, satellites transmitted real-time updates across light years, and energy grids aligned perfectly. "Prepare for the Council's response," he commanded. "They will come thinking we are weak. They will find only precision, unity, and the fury of a species they dared to threaten. Humanity will awaken fully tonight." Every human involved felt the thrill, the fear, the responsibility, and the pride. Engineers and scientists who had worked silently for years, pilots ready to leap into action, soldiers standing at attention, civilians assisting in minor but critical tasks, all felt the same unspoken truth. The audacity of the Council had awoken Earth's hidden force, and that force was more powerful than the galaxy could imagine. As night fell across continents, the planet's lights flickered with energy, sensors monitored alien fleets, and underground bunkers resonated with the pulse of preparation. Humanity had been underestimated, dismissed, and mocked. But now, the underestimation would become the galaxy's greatest mistake. Commander Kale took one last deep breath, feeling the weight of history and the power beneath his feet. He whispered to himself, and to every human listening in, "They thought we were weak. They thought we could be intimidated. They thought we would bow. They thought wrong. Humanity is awake. Humanity survives. Humanity will fight." And the galaxy, watching silently, unaware of the full magnitude of what had begun, would soon understand the consequences of daring to threaten Earth. Humanity's hidden force had awakened, and the Council's arrogance had set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy forever. The suspense, the thrill, and the tension were unrelenting. Every heartbeat, every pulse of energy, every breath drawn by humanity was a step closer to the reckoning the galaxy had been warned about but never believed would arrive. The Council believed they were untouchable. Their fleets gleamed like mountains of steel and fire in the dark expanse of space, perfectly aligned, calculated, and confident. They had underestimated Earth, assuming that a species with no fleets, no advanced warships, and no interstellar combat experience would crumble before a show of power. But they had overlooked something crucial. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were intelligent, resourceful, and capable of turning weakness into strength. Commander Kale watched from the orbital command station, his eyes narrowing at the distant formations of Council ships. He had studied their every movement, analyzed their patterns, and predicted their responses down to the smallest detail. Humanity had no choice but to act now. Every second of hesitation could allow the Council to adjust, regroup, or unleash devastation upon the planet below. He turned to his lieutenants, their faces tense yet resolute, their eyes reflecting the glow of holographic tactical displays. "This is it," he said. "The moment they think they can crush us, we strike. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Precision, patience, and courage. That is our weapon." In the orbital hangars, young pilots climbed into sleek spacecraft, their hands trembling slightly with a mixture of fear and excitement. They were ready. Years of training, simulations, and preparation had led to this moment. Engineers checked systems repeatedly, ensuring that every thruster, every laser, every shield was functioning perfectly. Soldiers monitored energy grids, satellites, and orbital defenses. The humans were small in number, but they moved like one organism, every part synchronized, every action calculated. As Kale gave the order, a low hum filled the command station. Orbital satellites aligned, ancient devices beneath the planet pulsed with energy, and communication grids transmitted precise coordinates to every pilot, engineer, and soldier. The first strike would not be random. It would be devastating, precise, and terrifying to the Council. Humans had no desire for mindless destruction. They wanted justice, they wanted survival, and they wanted to prove that the Council had made a fatal mistake. The first human crafts launched silently, threading through orbital platforms, weaving between energy shields, and disappearing into the darkness. They moved like shadows, their presence almost imperceptible until it was too late. Council scouts detected them too late. Lasers fired, attempting to intercept the crafts, but human pilots anticipated every trajectory, every evasive maneuver, and slipped through with uncanny precision. The first explosions erupted in distant Council vessels. Fire flared, engines failed, and control systems short-circuited. The humans had struck without revealing the full extent of their power. On the command deck, Kale felt a rush of emotion. Pride, sorrow, anger, and determination mingled together. Pride for the young pilots executing maneuvers with flawless precision. Sorrow for the lives already lost in preparation and training. Anger at the Council for daring to threaten humanity. And determination, fierce and unrelenting, to ensure that every strike served a purpose, that every victory was just. He whispered, "For Earth, for everyone who believed we were weak, for every life they tried to destroy." The Council did not understand what was happening. They barked orders, trying to reorganize their fleet, but the humans had anticipated every contingency. Orbital sensors relayed every Council movement in real time, feeding the humans' tactical systems. Engineers on Earth adjusted energy pulses, creating interference that disabled the enemy's communication and targeting systems. Pilots exploited every weakness, striking critical points with devastating effect. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago drifted helplessly, ablaze and powerless, as humans executed strategies no Council member could have predicted. Below, civilians watched the first distant flares of the conflict in orbit. Their hearts pounded with fear and awe. They could not see the pilots, the engineers, or the command teams coordinating in real time, but they could feel the shift. Humanity was no longer passive. Humanity had taken the first step toward defending itself. And in that moment, hope burned brighter than fear. In the Council chambers, panic replaced arrogance. "Impossible!" Councillor Varen roared, his voice echoing off cold walls. "How can they strike with such precision? They have no fleet. They have no advanced weapons." Other councillors scrambled to issue new orders, but every attempt failed. Humans had anticipated every move, exploited every weakness, and struck with intelligence that no alien species had expected. The arrogance that had blinded the Council for centuries crumbled in an instant. Kale's team executed the next phase of the strike. Smaller crafts darted in and out of enemy formations, disrupting engines and targeting systems. Orbital defenses fired with perfect timing, creating zones where Council ships could not maneuver. Ancient Earth devices projected energy pulses that short-circuited weapons and shields. It was as if the planet itself had joined the fight, lending its strength to every human action. Amid the chaos, Kale allowed himself a moment to reflect on the stakes. Every pilot risking their life, every engineer manipulating ancient systems, every soldier prepared to defend the planet. They were humanity's first line of defense. And yet, it was more than defense. This was humanity declaring, without hesitation or doubt, that it would not be intimidated. The Council had made a mistake by assuming weakness equaled submission. Humans would prove that intelligence, courage, and unity were stronger than any fleet, stronger than any weapon, stronger than any threat. The first wave of strikes ended with devastating effect. Several Council vessels drifted silently, burning and powerless. Communications faltered, coordination failed, and panic spread throughout the enemy fleet. Yet humans did not celebrate. They regrouped, analyzed, and prepared for the next wave. Every action was calculated. Every response was intentional. Every strike was precise. The suspense for the audience builds further. Humans had no visible fleet, no overwhelming firepower, and yet they had already disrupted the galaxy's most powerful council. Back on Earth, scientists monitored the results. Energy nodes pulsed, amplifying orbital strikes and feeding real-time data to every human pilot. Engineers adjusted satellite arrays, ensuring continuous coverage of Council fleet movements. Soldiers prepared contingency plans, anticipating potential council retaliation. Civilians, now aware that something monumental was unfolding above, whispered prayers, offered support, and held hope that humanity could survive the threat. Every heartbeat on the planet synchronized with the orbital maneuvers. Every breath echoed the determination that humans had cultivated for centuries. The Council tried again, sending elite squads to intercept human crafts. But humans were ready. Every movement of the Council's ships was tracked, predicted, and countered. Pilots executed maneuvers that seemed impossible, darting between lasers, dodging energy pulses, and striking with pinpoint accuracy. Council ships that had never feared any enemy now faced a species that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast them. Panic replaced arrogance. Orders were shouted, plans were revised, but the humans were always one step ahead. Kale's voice cut through the command deck. Maintain focus. Do not underestimate them. We strike with precision. We strike with courage. We strike for Earth. Every human on the station and every pilot in orbit felt the weight of those words. They understood the cost of failure, the responsibility of their actions, and the necessity of every strike. They also understood the exhilaration of turning underestimation into power, fear into courage, and weakness into strategy. As the first strike continued, the Council's flagship drifted slightly off course, shields flickering, weapons systems malfunctioning. Confidence shattered into fear. Counselor Varen's eyes widened as reports streamed in. Critical systems offline, elite squads disabled, communication networks jammed. The humans were not just surviving, they were winning. And yet, they had only begun. Humanity had revealed its intelligence, courage, and unity to the galaxy. The Council had thought to intimidate a primitive species, only to awaken a force that would challenge their greatest assumptions. Kale watched the chaos unfold, heart pounding with pride and sorrow. Pride for the young pilots maneuvering flawlessly, for the engineers controlling ancient systems with unmatched precision, for the soldiers who had prepared for this moment all their lives. Sorrow for the lives already lost in preparation and training, for the families who had sacrificed so much. And determination, fierce and unwavering, to ensure that every action, every strategy, every calculated strike would protect Earth and prove humanity's resilience. The humans' first strike ended with Council ships burning, drifting, and retreating in disarray. But Kale knew the battle had only begun. The Council would regroup, retaliate, and attempt to reassert control. Humanity had shown that it could strike intelligently, decisively, and without fear. The galaxy had seen the first proof that humans were not weak, not insignificant, and not to be threatened. And as Kale gazed down at Earth, illuminated by the glow of orbital energy pulses and the flickering lights of human cities, he whispered, "They have seen the first strike. Let them feel the awakening. Let them understand that humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans fight. And humans never surrender." The suspense, emotion, and tension hung heavy in the air. Humans had launched their first strike against the most powerful council in the galaxy, and the audience knew. The real battle had only just begun. Humanity had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could defy expectation. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The Supreme Council of Varon had never known fear. They had ruled entire star systems for centuries, their fleets unmatched, their intelligence networks vast, their power absolute. And yet, as the first reports came in, the arrogance that had blinded them for generations began to crumble. Counselors crowded around massive holographic displays, their eyes wide, jaws tight, voices raised in alarm. Ships they had deemed invincible now drifted powerless, disabled by precision strikes from a species they had called insignificant. Communication networks failed, targeting systems short-circuited, and elite squads that had been trained to crush entire planets were now scattered and helpless. The Council had thought humans were weak, primitive, and unarmed. They had been utterly wrong. Counselor Varen slammed his clawed hand against the marble of the chamber table. "Impossible!" he bellowed, his voice echoing like thunder. "Our fleets are unmatched. How can a primitive species strike with such precision? How can they anticipate every maneuver? They have no fleet, no weapons, no power comparable to ours. And yet, they do this. Other counselors exchanged terrified glances, their confidence faltering. Some had scoffed at Earth, laughing at its people, calling them irrelevant, unworthy of consideration. And now that laughter had died in their throats. Panic spread like wildfire through the chambers. Orders were shouted, plans revised. But the humans had anticipated every move. They had turned fear into strategy, and arrogance into opportunity. Back on Earth, Commander Kale watched the Council's confusion with a mix of grim satisfaction and deep, unrelenting focus. Humanity had struck first, but the Council would retaliate. They would try to correct mistakes to regain control. Kale knew that every second counted, that hesitation could cost countless lives. They panic because they cannot predict us, he murmured to his lieutenants. That is our advantage. We fight not only with power but with intelligence. Every move they make is already inside our calculations. Every reaction is ours to use. The engineers, scientists, and pilots around him nodded silently, each understanding the weight of that truth. In the council chambers, frantic messages flickered across every screen. Reports of disabled ships, malfunctioning weapons, and disoriented fleets poured in, overwhelming the counselors' ability to process them. They had never faced an enemy like this, an enemy that could strike with precision without fleets of comparable size, without advanced technology that they could detect. The humans had no visible advantages, no overwhelming strength, yet they had crippled what the Council had believed to be unstoppable. Fear, raw and unyielding, began to dominate their thoughts. The Council had never felt it before, and now it consumed them. Kale's team moved with lethal efficiency. Pilots executed maneuvers that seemed impossible to the Council's best strategists, weaving through fleets like shadows, striking critical points without being seen until it was too late. Orbital satellites relayed precise data to every human craft, guiding them to vulnerabilities the Council did not know existed. Engineers activated ancient energy systems beneath Earth, sending pulses that interfered with weapons, shields, and communications. Every human, from the youngest pilot to the oldest scientist, was part of a synchronized attack that the Council could neither comprehend nor counter. The Council scrambled, issuing conflicting orders, blaming one another for failures, and attempting to regain control. Counselor Varen's voice cut through the chaos. Divert reinforcements. Isolate the threat. Launch countermeasures. No, wait. Focus on Earth's orbital systems. No, our plans are failing. Every instruction collided with another, creating confusion that compounded their losses. Humans moved as one, anticipating, adjusting, and exploiting every weakness, every hesitation, every panic-fueled decision. On Earth, civilians watched the skies and felt the pulse of the hidden systems. Lights flickered, satellites realigned, and energy grids hummed with life. The planet itself seemed to respond to the humans' determination. Families held their breath, knowing that battles raged above them, yet feeling pride for the species they were part of. Soldiers in bunkers prepared for emergency responses. Pilots calibrated their crafts, and engineers monitored systems with relentless focus. Fear and courage intertwined, creating a charged atmosphere that electrified every action. Kale moved to the central command platform, eyes locked on the holographic display showing the Council fleets in disarray. They thought arrogance would intimidate us, he said quietly. They thought our planet was weak, that we were insignificant. But every failure of theirs is our advantage. Every misstep they make brings us closer to control of this battle. Humanity will survive, and humanity will strike back stronger than they can imagine. The Council, desperate, attempted to rally elite fleets. But every move was anticipated. Human pilots intercepted reinforcements with unmatched skill, disabling ships before they could engage. Energy pulses from Earth disrupted weapons, shields, and communication, leaving Council ships vulnerable and exposed. Panic spread through the ranks of the Council fleets like a contagion, weakening coordination, eroding confidence, and amplifying the humans' advantage. Every counselor felt the dread that comes with realizing that a species they had dismissed could think, adapt, and strike in ways beyond their comprehension. Amidst the chaos, Kale allowed himself a moment to reflect on the human cost. Every victory had been carefully calculated to minimize loss of life, yet he knew some sacrifices were inevitable. Young pilots, scientists, and engineers had risked everything, their courage and dedication carrying the weight of a planet's survival. Kale's heart ached for the families and friends of those who might fall, yet pride surged within him as he witnessed humanity's precision and bravery. Humans were not just fighting. They were proving their worth, their intelligence, and their ability to protect their home against impossible odds. The Council's panic grew as reports of further failures arrived. Their strategy had been perfect in theory, flawless on paper, but humans had outthought them at every turn. Every plan that had once inspired confidence now fueled fear. Ships designed to obliterate planets drifted helplessly, fleets that had dominated entire sectors were disabled, and the counselors realized they had underestimated the wrong species. Arrogance had blinded them, and now the consequences were immediate, visceral, and terrifying. Kale's voice rang through the command stations. Maintain focus, precision, patience, and courage. Humanity is not just defending Earth, we are showing the galaxy our strength. The Council may panic, but we will strike with intelligence, strategy, and unity. We fight because we must survive. We fight because we are human, and humans never surrender. Engineers adjusted energy pulses, pilots executed maneuvers, and soldiers prepared to respond to any Council retaliation. The humans moved as one, a single organism, a planet-wide force of intellect and determination. Back in the Council chambers, the atmosphere was electric with fear. Advisors argued, officers panicked, and Varen's confidence had completely dissolved. We underestimated them, he shouted, voice trembling with rage. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are unpredictable. Every counselor felt the same terror, the realization that their empire's arrogance had provoked a species capable of thinking, adapting, and striking in ways they had never considered. The humans had revealed their true strength, and the Council was powerless to stop them. As night fell on Earth, the planet pulsed with energy. Ancient devices, orbital platforms, and hidden systems hummed with life, synchronizing human efforts across continents. Every human involved felt the thrill of purpose, the fear of the unknown, and the pride of defending their home. Humanity had faced the first wave of battle and emerged not just unbroken, but stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. The Council would attempt to recover, to regain control, to assert dominance. But the first lesson had been taught. Humans were not to be underestimated. Their intelligence, courage, and unity had turned panic into power, fear into strategy, and underestimation into the Council's greatest mistake. The suspense, the tension, and the emotional weight of the story reached a new peak. The audience knew, as did Kale and every human watching the galaxy, that the Council's panic was only the beginning. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. And so, as orbital satellites pulsed, pilots prepared for the next wave, and Kale gazed into the darkness beyond Earth. He whispered to himself and to the millions depending on him, "Let them panic, let them fear. Every misstep they make brings humanity closer to victory. We survive, we endure, we fight, and humanity will rise, stronger than they could ever imagine." Earth's response was not just courage. It was intelligence, precision, and centuries of careful planning. Humanity's strength was not in fleets or massive weapons, but in strategy, adaptability, and the unity of its people. Commander Kale watched from the orbital command station as the Council fleets struggled to regain control. Every movement they made had already been anticipated, every countermeasure carefully calculated, every weakness subtly exploited. The humans had turned the Council's panic into a weapon, striking not with brute force alone, but with precision that no empire could predict. Kale moved among his lieutenants, observing the young pilots preparing for the next strike. Their faces were pale, yet their eyes burned with determination. Some were teenagers barely old enough to hold command roles, yet their courage and skill were unmatched. "Remember," Kale said quietly, his voice steady and commanding, "the Council thinks we are weak. They think we cannot outthink them. Every calculation, every prediction, every maneuver is in our favor. We strike where they cannot see, move where they cannot anticipate, and survive where they cannot imagine. Humanity survives because we are smarter, braver, and united." Below, the ancient systems buried beneath Earth hummed with renewed energy. Engineers monitored conduits that ran deep into the planet's core, channels that connected orbital satellites, planetary shields, and hidden energy devices scattered across continents. Every pulse of energy, every adjustment in the network, amplified humanity's reach, giving humans an advantage that no council in the galaxy could detect. It was as if Earth itself had become a weapon, a strategic fortress that flowed with intelligence, courage, and the collective will of every human alive. The Council's flagship struggled in orbit above Earth. Its weapons misfired, its shields flickered, and communication relays failed. Counselor Varen banged his clawed hand against a console. "This cannot be," he roared, voice trembling with panic. "They have no fleets. They have no advanced technology. How can a primitive species disable our ships and outmaneuver our strategies?" Other counselors shouted over one another, issuing conflicting orders, each desperate to regain control as the humans continued their precise, devastating operations. Every second of confusion played directly into humanity's hands. Kale's eyes scanned the holographic display, tracking council vessels that had been disabled, their positions drifting, engines failing, and weapons offline. He could see the fear spreading across the alien crews like wildfire. It was a fear they had never known, one that humans understood intimately, the fear of underestimating the wrong enemy. Kale's voice cut through the command station. "Strike with precision. Every ship they move, every system they activate, we already know. We adapt. We survive. We fight. And we win." Human pilots darted through the void with breathtaking skill. Their crafts moved like shadows between council vessels, striking weak points with deadly accuracy. Some targeted engines, leaving ships drifting helplessly. Others disabled weapons systems or communication relays, creating chaos and confusion. Every strike was measured, calculated, and perfectly timed. Humans had no desire for mindless destruction. They wanted control, survival, and the ability to prove the Council's arrogance had been their fatal error. Below, engineers and scientists monitored the results. Energy pulses from Earth flowed through orbital platforms, amplifying strikes and protecting humans from retaliation. Satellites relayed real-time data, tracking enemy movements and providing tactical advantages that the Council could not comprehend. Soldiers coordinated emergency responses on the planet, ensuring civilians remained safe while also contributing to the wider defense strategy. Humanity was not simply reacting. It was orchestrating a symphony of intelligence, courage, and strategy that would become legend across the galaxy. Kale paused for a moment, reflecting on the weight of the battle. Every pilot risking their life, every engineer manipulating ancient systems, every soldier standing ready to protect the planet. They were humanity's first line of defense. And yet, it was more than defense. This was a statement, a declaration that Earth would not bow, that humans would survive, and that no species, no council, no empire could ever underestimate them again. Pride surged through Kale, tempered with the solemn understanding of the risks involved. Humanity's survival depended on courage, intelligence, and unwavering unity. The Council attempted another wave of attacks, sending specialized strike teams to neutralize humans' orbital systems. But the humans had already anticipated this. Pilots intercepted enemy crafts with flawless timing, engineers manipulated energy grids to disrupt weapons, and orbital satellites projected interference that disabled enemy targeting. Every Council strategy was countered, every move anticipated, and every reaction exploited. The humans had transformed fear into precision, chaos into advantage, and underestimation into their greatest weapon. On Earth, civilians watched the night sky with a mix of awe, fear, and hope. Lights flickered as orbital defenses activated, Energy pulses illuminated cities, and communications networks transmitted data across continents. Families whispered prayers, held hands, and felt the stirring of pride for their species. Humanity, underestimated for centuries, was now showing the galaxy its true strength: intelligence, courage, and unity. Kale turned to his lieutenants. They panic because they cannot predict us. Every misstep they make is ours to exploit. Every hesitation, every flaw, every error amplifies our advantage. Humanity fights not just for survival, but to prove that we are a species to be respected, feared, and never underestimated. The lieutenants nodded, their eyes reflecting the determination that burned in every human heart. The first council fleets had begun to retreat in disarray. Systems failing, ships drifting, coordination lost. The humans had forced the most powerful council in the galaxy into chaos. But Kale knew this was only the beginning. The council would regroup, send reinforcements, and attempt to reassert control. Humanity had won the first round, but the battle for survival and respect had only just begun. Every pulse of energy, every pilot maneuver, every system adjustment carried a weight far greater than the immediate victory. It was a declaration to the galaxy. Humans were not weak. Humans were not insignificant. Humans were intelligent, courageous, and capable of turning every challenge into an advantage. The suspense, emotion, and tension were unrelenting, as the audience and the humans alike understood that the first strike had only revealed a fraction of humanity's potential. Kale allowed himself a moment to breathe, feeling the pride and sorrow of the battle. Pride in the skill and bravery of every human involved. Sorrow for the lives already lost in preparation, training, and sacrifice. And determination, unyielding, unbroken, to continue the fight, to protect Earth, and to prove that humans could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. They will remember this day, he whispered, voice heavy with emotion. The Council will remember that humans are not weak. They will remember that underestimation is fatal. And the galaxy will remember that humanity survives, always, and fights smarter, harder, and stronger than any other. The first wave of strategic strikes had ended, but the humans were already preparing for the next phase. Every system pulsed with life, every pilot remained alert, and every soldier stood ready. Humanity had awakened its hidden potential, transforming fear into strategy, chaos into advantage, and the Council's arrogance into their own downfall. The suspense, tension, and emotional weight continued to grow. The audience understood. The humans had not just survived, they had begun to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. And as Kale gazed at the distant Council fleets, burning and disabled in orbit, he whispered once more, "We fight because we must. We fight because we are human, and humans never surrender." The words echoed across the command station, across Earth, and through every heart participating in the defense. Humanity had shown the first signs of strategic genius, and the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. The Council believed it still held control. Their fleets, massive and gleaming, drifted through orbit, their engines burning steadily, shields glowing like armored mountains in space. But control was an illusion, and humans were about to shatter it completely. Commander Kale stood on the orbital command deck, his gaze locked on the Council vessels, each one a symbol of arrogance that had underestimated humanity for centuries. The first strikes had revealed the Council's flaws, and now it was time to exploit them fully. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, it was fighting to turn the galaxy's assumptions upside down. "Prepare the second wave," Kale commanded, his voice calm but filled with intensity. Around him, lieutenants relayed orders, pilots readied their crafts, and engineers monitored the energy conduits running deep beneath Earth. Every pulse of energy, every system brought online, amplified the planet's hidden potential. Humanity's power was not obvious. It could not be measured in fleet size or weaponry, but it was precise, intelligent, and unstoppable. Humans had no illusions of invincibility. They had only one goal: turn weakness into strategy, fear into opportunity, and underestimation into victory. Pilots launched once more, weaving through orbital platforms with unmatched skill. Their crafts moved like shadows between enemy vessels, striking critical points with surgical precision. Engines were disabled, weapons systems short-circuited, and communication networks jammed. Every human movement was calculated, every strike intentional. The Council's ships, confident moments ago, now floundered in confusion, unable to respond to tactics they could not predict. Humans had transformed desperation into genius. Below, Earth's hidden systems pulsed with life. Ancient devices activated in perfect synchronization, energy flowing from the planet's core through orbital platforms, satellites, and defense arrays. Engineers monitored every fluctuation, adjusting pulses to amplify human strikes while protecting Earth from retaliation. Every human involved, from pilots to scientists, engineers to soldiers, moved as one organism, a single living network of intelligence and courage. The suspense thickened, the emotional tension intensified, as the audience witnessed humans taking control of a battle no one thought they could survive. The Council's panic deepened. How can they anticipate everything? Counselor Varen shouted, voice trembling with rage and fear. They have no fleet capable of striking so precisely. They have no technology that could predict our maneuvers. And yet, they outmaneuver us at every turn. Other counselors tried to restore order, but every effort collided with the humans' calculated countermeasures. The Council had underestimated one thing they could not calculate: human adaptability. Kale watched as pilots darted between enemy ships, disabling engines, weapons, and shields with pinpoint accuracy. Energy pulses from Earth disrupted the Council's systems further, creating zones of chaos that left the aliens helpless. Every Council vessel was forced to retreat, reposition, or risk destruction. The humans had forced the most powerful Council in the galaxy into disarray, not with raw firepower alone, but with intelligence, courage, and unity. On Earth, civilians felt the planet's pulse. Streets lit with emergency energy grids, communication networks stabilized, and sensors transmitted updates across continents. Families watched in awe, some holding their children close, others whispering prayers. Humanity had turned panic into strategy. Humanity had become a force that could not be ignored. The emotional weight of the moment pressed on everyone. Fear and hope intertwined, creating a tension that electrified every human action. Kale moved to the observation deck, staring at the Council fleets in disarray. His mind raced, calculating every potential move the Council might make next. They think they can recover, he murmured. They think they can reassert control. But we have already predicted their reactions. Every hesitation they make strengthens us. Every panic-fueled order they issue brings humanity closer to victory. Around him, lieutenants nodded silently, hearts pounding, minds sharp. The humans had learned quickly, adapted faster, and struck harder than any Council had ever imagined. The Council attempted another wave of attacks, deploying elite strike teams to neutralize Earth's orbital platforms. But humans were ready. Pilots intercepted enemy crafts with incredible skill, dodging laser fire and striking weak points simultaneously. Engineers adjusted energy pulses to disable Council weapons before they could even activate. Satellites relayed targeting data in real time, ensuring humans always had the advantage. The Council's elite squads faltered, their confidence crumbling as every plan they had relied on was rendered useless. Every strike, every maneuver, every adjustment carried immense emotional weight. Kale thought of the young pilots, barely adults, who risked everything in orbit. He thought of engineers and scientists who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. He thought of soldiers standing ready to protect the planet from any Council ground incursion. And he thought of civilians, the lifeblood of humanity, who depended on him, on every human, to survive. Pride surged alongside fear, hope alongside grief. Humanity's resilience was now visible to the galaxy, a force the Council had never anticipated. In orbit, the Council fleet faltered further. Ships that had once struck fear across sectors drifted helplessly, weapons offline, engines damaged, and crews panicked. Communications failed, coordination dissolved, and the arrogance that had blinded the council for centuries evaporated. Counselor Varen's eyes widened in disbelief. They are turning the tables, he whispered, voice trembling. Every counselor felt it, the crushing realization that they had underestimated the wrong species. Humans were not just surviving. Humans were dictating the flow of battle. Humans were winning. Kale gave the order to press the advantage. Pilots accelerated, orbital platforms pulsed with renewed energy, and satellites projected interference to disrupt council reinforcements. The humans struck with a blend of intelligence and courage that no alien fleet had ever encountered. Every maneuver, every strike, every pulse of energy was designed to exploit panic, fear, and arrogance. Humanity was not just defending Earth. They were turning the tables, seizing control of a battle that the galaxy had assumed was lost. On Earth, the emotional resonance of the battle was palpable. Civilians felt the rhythm of planetary energy, the hum of satellites, the pulsing strength of ancient systems. Families whispered, children held hands, and soldiers, engineers, and pilots shared silent determination. Humanity had been underestimated, dismissed, and mocked. Now, humans were showing the galaxy what it meant to survive, to adapt, and to fight smarter than any council had imagined. Kale stood on the command deck, watching the chaos unfold, heart pounding. Every move we make, he said softly, every calculation, every maneuver, every strike, it is proof that humans are more than what the galaxy believes. They thought they could intimidate us. They thought weakness equals submission. They thought wrong. Humanity survives. Humanity adapts. Humanity fights. The council fleets were in retreat, systems failing, morale shattered, and panic spreading like wildfire. Humanity had not only defended Earth, they had rewritten the rules of engagement, turned panic into strategy, and proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could defeat arrogance, power, and firepower. The suspense, emotion, and tension were at their peak. The audience, like the humans themselves, knew that the galaxy had witnessed the rise of a force it had never considered. A united, intelligent, and unstoppable humanity. As Kale gazed down at Earth, glowing with energy pulses and illuminated cities, he whispered, "They underestimated us. They panicked. They faltered. And now they will learn that humans never surrender. Humans never bow. Humans always fight and always survive." The weight of history, pride, fear, and hope intertwined in that moment, marking the first true turning of the tide. Humanity had awakened fully, and the galaxy would never forget it. The council believed they were untouchable. Their fleets, vast and gleaming, had dominated entire sectors for centuries. Yet, from the command deck orbiting Earth, Commander Kale watched them falter, powerless and confused, their arrogance shattered by the humans they had underestimated for so long. Humanity had survived the first waves of attacks, turned panic into strategy, and now it was time for the decisive move. Strike at the heart of the council itself. Kale stood over the holographic display, eyes scanning the positions of the council fleets, the layout of their command stations, and the vulnerabilities that no alien had dared consider. "We do not strike blindly," he said to his lieutenants, voice calm but intense. "We strike precisely. We strike where they think they are safe. We strike where they believe no human can reach. This is not just a battle for survival, it is a declaration. Humanity exists. Humanity will not be ignored. Humanity will not bow." Around him, pilots and engineers listened silently, hearts pounding, minds sharp. They understood the gravity of this moment. One misstep could mean disaster, but success could change the course of history. Below, Earth systems pulsed with anticipation. Satellites aligned, orbital platforms glowed with energy, and ancient devices buried deep in the planet's crust activated in unison. Engineers monitored every node, adjusting power flows, amplifying signals, and preparing the planet's hidden strength to aid in the strike. Every human involved, from soldiers and pilots to scientists and civilians, was a part of a coordinated effort that no council in history had ever faced. Humanity had turned unity into power, intelligence into strategy, and courage into action. The Council's flagship, a massive structure of steel and light, gleamed in orbit, unaware of the trap being laid. Counselor Varen paced frantically across the command bridge, his voice rising with panic. How can they predict us? How can they strike without fleets, without weapons, without strength? This is impossible. Other counselors scrambled, issuing orders that conflicted, contradicting one another in fear-driven desperation. Every command was anticipated, every response countered. The humans were in complete control, turning the Council's panic into their greatest weapon. Kale activated the second wave of pilots, small teams moving like shadows between Council vessels. Their crafts darted silently, slipping past shields and deflectors, striking engines and weapons with surgical precision. Each move was calculated, timed to the second. Human intelligence, honed by generations of preparation, guided every strike. Engineers amplified the attacks with precise energy pulses from the planet, disrupting communications, weapons, and shields simultaneously. Council vessels faltered, drifting helplessly, while their crews panicked and attempted repairs that humans had already anticipated. On the command deck, Kale felt a surge of emotion. Pride, sorrow, fear, and determination mingling together. Pride for the young pilots executing flawless maneuvers. Sorrow for the lives already lost in preparation and training. Fear for what the Council might attempt next, and determination to ensure that every action, every strike, served a greater purpose. Humanity's survival and victory. They will remember this, Kale whispered. They will remember that humans fight smarter, faster, and braver than any Council could imagine. Below Earth, civilians watched the sky, unaware of the precise movements in orbit, but feeling the planet's energy in subtle ways. Lights flickered, satellites aligned, and communication grids hummed with life. Families whispered, children clutched their parents' hands, and soldiers prepared for any possible ground threat. Humanity's courage was mirrored in every heartbeat. The planet itself seemed alive with anticipation, lending strength to those above and below. Every human, no matter how distant from the battle, was part of the strike. The Council, desperate, sent elite command squads to intercept the humans' orbital crafts. But Kale had anticipated this. Pilots intercepted the squads with perfect timing, dodging lasers and disabling engines before the Council could react. Energy pulses from Earth created interference zones, leaving Council weapons offline. Every attempt at counterattack was neutralized before it could begin. Humans had turned defense into offense, fear into advantage, and intelligence into absolute power. Counselor Varen's eyes widened as reports flooded in. Ships disabled, communications down, elite squads failing, systems malfunctioning. Panic replaced arrogance. They are attacking the core, he shouted, voice trembling. The Council's flagship was now vulnerable, its defenses compromised, and the humans were approaching with precise coordination that no alien in history had ever seen. Every moment of hesitation, every fear-driven decision, amplified the humans' advantage. Kale's team moved into the final phase. Pilots weaved between the flagship shields, striking weak points with precise laser strikes. Engineers below Earth synchronized energy pulses to disable critical systems, leaving the Council vessel exposed. Satellites relayed targeting data instantly, guiding every human maneuver with unparalleled accuracy. Every Council reaction was anticipated, every countermeasure neutralized, and every failure amplified by human intelligence. The flagship shuddered as critical systems failed. Engines faltered, weapons went offline, and the Council crew panicked. Varen's face contorted with rage and disbelief. How is this possible? They have no fleet, they have no technology, and yet, they strike with the power of an empire. Every counselor felt the crushing weight of underestimating the wrong species. Humanity had turned fear into precision, chaos into strategy, and hope into unstoppable force. Kale allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. Pride surged, tempered by sorrow. pride for the skill and courage of every human involved, and sorrow for the sacrifices made to reach this moment. Every young pilot, every engineer, every soldier had risked everything for this strike. And yet, they had succeeded. Humanity was not just surviving. It was dictating the battle, controlling the course of events, and striking at the heart of the galaxy's most powerful council. On Earth, the planet's pulse resonated with every victory. Citizens watched lights flicker, satellites pulse, and energy grids hum with life. Humanity's courage and intelligence were mirrored in every action, every heartbeat, every breath. Fear had turned into hope, panic into precision, and weakness into genius. Humans had revealed their true power to the galaxy, and the Council had no choice but to face it. Kale's voice rang across the command deck. This is humanity. We fight because we must. We fight because we are human. We fight because we will survive. And humans never surrender. Pilots maneuvered, energy pulses surged, and soldiers prepared for any possible retaliation. The Council's panic had become humanity's weapon, and the strike at the heart of the enemy had begun in earnest. The flagship, once untouchable, now drifted helplessly, crippled by intelligence, strategy, and courage that no council could comprehend. Humanity had turned desperation into power, fear into precision, and underestimation into disaster for the council. The suspense, tension, and emotional weight were overwhelming. The audience and humans alike understood. The heart of the council had been struck, and the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. Kale gazed down at the planet below, glowing with energy and illuminated by human effort. They will remember today, he whispered. They will remember that humans are not weak. They will remember that arrogance is fatal. And they will remember that humanity fights, survives, and rises. Always. The words echoed through every corner of the command station, through every orbiting pilot, through every citizen below. Humanity had struck at the heart, and the awakening of the species was now undeniable. The Supreme Council of Veyron had ruled for centuries with absolute control, but now their empire trembled. Reports streamed into the command chambers. Flagship crippled, fleets disabled, communications jammed, and elite squads scattered in chaos. Panic had replaced arrogance. Every counselor, every officer, every strategist felt the crushing weight of underestimating the humans. No plan, no fleet, no ancient weapon could match the intelligence, coordination, and courage of a species they had dismissed as primitive. The council was in total disarray, their empire unraveling faster than anyone could have predicted. Counselor Veyron stood in the central chamber, his claws gripping the marble console so tightly that sparks flew. His voice shook with anger and fear. This cannot be. They have no fleets. They have no power. And yet, they control every engagement, anticipate every move, and strike at our heart. Other counselors shouted, blaming one another for failures, issuing conflicting orders, trying to restore authority that no longer existed. Every command was anticipated by human strategists, every reaction exploited. Panic spread like wildfire, infecting every sector, and every moment of hesitation became an advantage for humanity. Kale watched from orbit, eyes sharp, heart steady but pounding with the weight of responsibility. Humans had turned the first attacks into lessons, the Council's panic into weapons, and now it was time to fully exploit the disarray. They are panicking because they cannot predict us, Kale murmured. Every hesitation, every flaw, every fear-driven order strengthens us. Humanity survives because we act together, think faster, and strike harder than any empire can imagine. Pilots readied themselves, engineers monitored energy pulses, and soldiers prepared for the Council's next desperate moves. Every human was aware of the stakes. Every human understood that this was more than survival. It was a declaration that Earth would never bow. Below, Earth's hidden systems pulsed with synchronized energy. Ancient devices, once dormant, now amplified human strikes and protected orbital defenses. Satellites hummed in unison, relaying targeting data to every pilot, every craft, every soldier. Humanity had no massive fleets, no weapons capable of destroying planets, but what they had was far more lethal: intelligence, coordination, and unity. Every citizen, every young pilot, every scientist, and every engineer played a role in the unfolding strategy. Fear and hope intertwined, driving humans to act with precision and courage unmatched in the galaxy. The Council, desperate to regain control, dispatched their fastest squadrons to intercept human crafts. But it was too late. Pilots, young and experienced alike, executed maneuvers that no alien squadron had anticipated. Energy pulses from Earth disabled targeting systems mid-combat, leaving Council ships exposed and drifting. Every misstep, every panic-fueled order, amplified human advantage. The Council had underestimated one critical factor. Humans think differently, move unpredictably, and fight with a unity born of shared purpose. Counselor Varen banged his claws against the console. Our strategies fail before they even begin. How can they anticipate every move, counter every attack, and strike at our command centers? This is madness. Panic spread across the chamber. Advisors argued, officers screamed, and coordination dissolved. Fleets were scattered, reinforcements delayed, and the Council realized the horrifying truth. They were no longer in control. Humanity dictated the battlefield. Humanity had turned fear into precision, chaos into advantage, and underestimation into fatal error for the Council. Kale moved among his lieutenants, eyes scanning the battlefield projected across the holographic displays. "We strike with intelligence, not recklessness," he said. "We exploit their disarray, we anticipate their desperation, and we move with unity. Every human action counts. Every strike, every maneuver, every pulse of energy is a lesson to the galaxy. Do not underestimate humanity." Pilots nodded, soldiers adjusted shields, engineers monitored energy flows, and satellites aligned to amplify every movement. The humans operated as a single organism, a force the Council could neither predict nor stop. On Earth, civilians felt the planet itself respond. Lights flickered, sensors pulsed, and communication networks hummed with synchronized energy. Families whispered prayers, children clutched their parents' hands, and soldiers prepared for any Council retaliation. Humanity's courage and determination resonated through every heart. Fear had transformed into precision. Desperation had become strategy. Underestimation had turned into unstoppable momentum. The emotional weight of the moment pressed on everyone, blending awe, hope, pride, and fear into a single electric tension. The Council's flagship faltered further. Systems that had once been impenetrable now flickered, shields failing, engines sputtering, communications lost. Counselor Varen's eyes widened in disbelief. They are controlling the battlefield. They are winning without fleets. They are human. The realization hit the chamber like a thunderbolt. Humans had not only survived, they had seized the advantage. Humanity's intelligence, courage, and unity had turned the galaxy's most powerful council into a trembling, disorganized force. Kale's voice echoed through the command deck. They panic because they cannot adapt. They panic because they cannot think as we do. They panic because they have underestimated the species they thought weak. Humanity survives, not because of strength, but because of intelligence, courage, and unity. And now we move forward. Pilots accelerated, orbital platforms pulsed, and energy flows synchronized across Earth and space. Humanity struck with lethal precision, taking advantage of every flaw, every hesitation, every panic-driven decision the Council made. The Council attempted one last coordinated counterattack. Ships moved hastily, command signals scrambled, and elite squads charged to neutralize orbital defenses. Humans anticipated each move. Pilots intercepted, engineers adjusted energy flows, satellites jammed weapons, and soldiers readied for emergency responses. Every Council maneuver was countered before it could begin, every reaction exploited to perfection. Humanity had turned fear into weaponized advantage, chaos into unstoppable strategy, and underestimation into irreversible council collapse. Kale allowed himself a brief moment of reflection, feeling the emotional weight of the battle. Pride surged within him for the skill and courage of every human involved. Sorrow and fear mingled as he thought of potential casualties, but determination overpowered everything. Humanity's awakening was unstoppable. Every citizen, every pilot, every engineer, every soldier was part of a force greater than the Council could comprehend. A species that survived, adapted, and struck back smarter than any empire had ever imagined. Counselor Varen slumped in disbelief as reports continued to flood in. Fleets scattered, systems failing, elite squads destroyed, communications offline, coordination gone. The Council had lost control entirely. How did they do this? He whispered. Every counselor felt the same terror, the same realization. Arrogance had blinded them, underestimation had been their fatal flaw, and humanity had turned the tide. On Earth, the planet pulsed with energy as humans prepared for the next phase. The night sky glittered with orbital platforms, synchronized satellites, and energy beams, all orchestrated in perfect harmony. Civilians watched in awe, soldiers and pilots prepared for anything, and engineers continued to amplify the hidden systems beneath the planet's crust. Humanity's strategic genius and unity had not only defended their home, they had demonstrated to the galaxy that Earth could not be threatened, could not be underestimated, and would never bow. Kale's voice cut across the command deck, steady, firm, and resolute. The Council panics because they cannot understand us. Humanity survives because we think, adapt, and act as one. Every action we take, every strategy we execute, is a lesson for the galaxy. Do not underestimate the humans. We fight because we must, we fight because we are human, and we fight because humanity never surrenders. The Council's disarray continued to grow, and the humans prepared for the final phase of their decisive strike. The Supreme Council of Varen, once untouchable, now trembled. Humanity had turned panic into precision, fear into advantage, and intelligence into unstoppable power. The suspense, tension, and emotional weight reached a new peak. The audience, like every human and alien involved, knew one truth. The Council was broken, and Earth's defenders had proven that the underestimated species was now the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The Council had faltered, their fleets scattered, their communications in chaos, their arrogance shattered. Yet Commander Kale knew the battle was far from over. Humanity had survived the first waves, turned fear into strategy, and struck at the heart of the Varen Council. But the final blow required precision, courage, and unity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every heartbeat in orbit, every pulse from Earth, every maneuver in the void carried the weight of history. Kale stood on the command deck, eyes scanning the crippled Council fleets. His jaw tightened, hands gripping the console. "We finish this," he said quietly, voice carrying the calm intensity of a leader who had seen the tides turn and now sought to secure victory. "We strike at the core, the Council itself. They believed they were untouchable, but their arrogance is their undoing. Humans fight not because we must, but because we refuse to bow." Around him, pilots, engineers, and lieutenants nodded, hearts pounding, minds focused. Each human knew that the final blow could mean total victory or catastrophe. There was no margin for error. Below, Earth hummed with synchronized energy. Ancient conduits beneath the planet pulsed in perfect harmony with orbital platforms and satellites. Engineers monitored every fluctuation, adjusting energy pulses to amplify human strikes while protecting critical systems. Humanity's hidden strength, a combination of intelligence, courage, and the unity of every citizen, was now fully unleashed. The suspense and emotional tension reached a fever pitch. Every human, from the youngest pilot to the oldest scientist, understood the magnitude of the moment. They were not just defending Earth, they were declaring to the galaxy that underestimation of humanity was fatal. Counselor Varen's flagship, once a symbol of untouchable power, floated helplessly in orbit. Engines sputtered, weapons offline, shields flickered. Panic gripped the Council like a vice. How can they strike us so precisely? Without fleets, without power, without advanced technology. And yet, they dominate us. Other counselors scrambled, shouting conflicting orders, their confidence evaporating into fear. Every decision they made was anticipated, every move exploited. The humans were no longer defending, they were dictating the outcome. Kale activated the final wave of pilots. Small, precise teams moved like shadows, weaving between council vessels, striking engines, weapons, and communication arrays. Every movement was calculated to the second. Orbital platforms pulsed in sync with Earth's hidden systems, amplifying energy to disable shields and disable weapons with surgical precision. Satellites relayed targeting data in real time, guiding human strikes with unmatched accuracy. The Council's panic spread through every sector, every vessel, every officer. Humanity was unstoppable, not because of raw power, but because of intelligence, unity, and courage. In orbit, pilots dodged fire and delivered precise strikes. Engineers monitored and adjusted energy flows, amplifying every attack. Soldiers in command stations prepared for any ground threat, ready to counter any desperate council moves. Humanity's strategy was flawless. Anticipate, adapt, and strike. Every hesitation by the council increased human advantage. Every fear-driven order weakened their control. Every mistake became an opportunity. The suspense and emotional weight were unbearable, each second carrying life or death stakes. Counselor Varen's voice shook with rage and disbelief. This is impossible. They cannot be human. They cannot command the battlefield without fleets or weapons. His claws slammed the console repeatedly, sparks flying. And yet, they do. Panic consumed the council. Orders collided. Officers argued. Fleets drifted helplessly. Every system they relied on faltered, disrupted by the humans' perfect coordination. Humanity had turned the tide completely, and the final blow was at hand. Kale addressed his lieutenants, voice firm, commanding, but filled with emotion. This is humanity's moment. Every pilot, every engineer, every soldier, strike together. Exploit every flaw, every hesitation, every fear. Humanity survives because we fight smarter, faster, braver than any empire can imagine. Today, the Council learns the cost of underestimating humans. Pilots nodded, eyes fierce. Engineers checked conduits and satellites, ensuring synchronization. Soldiers readied emergency measures. Humanity acted as one organism, unified in purpose, unstoppable in execution. On Earth, civilians felt the planet's power hum beneath them. Lights flickered, satellites aligned, and communication grids pulsed with energy. Families watched in awe, children clutched parents' hands, soldiers prepared for emergencies, and every human, whether on the battlefield or at home, was part of the final strike. The emotional tension was overwhelming, blending fear, hope, pride, and determination. Humanity was no longer underestimated. Humanity had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Kale watched as pilots executed precise maneuvers, disabling the Council flagship's weapons, engines, and shields. Energy pulses from Earth surged in perfect timing, amplifying every strike. Satellites relayed real-time targeting, leaving no Council system untouched. Crew members panicked, trying desperately to regain control, but humans anticipated every reaction. The Council's arrogance, built over centuries, had crumbled entirely. Every hesitation, every flaw, every fear-driven action was exploited to perfection. The Council's flagship shuddered violently as the final human strikes hit. Engines failed, weapons offline, communications dead. Varen's face contorted with disbelief. No, this cannot be humans. They have done it. Other counselors fell silent, staring at screens displaying the destruction and chaos humans had wrought with intelligence and courage alone. Humanity had delivered the final blow. The once mighty council was broken, their fleets scattered, their power shattered, and their arrogance destroyed. Kale allowed himself a moment of reflection. Pride surged for the skill and bravery of every human involved. Sorrow mingled with hope as he thought of the sacrifices made. Fear remained, but determination burned brighter. Humanity had survived, adapted, and struck with intelligence unmatched in the galaxy. The suspense had reached its climax. The audience felt it, the humans felt it, and the council crumbled under the weight of what they had dismissed for centuries. On Earth, the planet glowed with synchronized energy. Citizens watched lights flicker and satellites pulse, and soldiers prepared for the final security measures. Humanity had turned fear into power, desperation into strategy, and underestimation into irreversible victory. The emotional weight pressed on everyone. Pride for survival, grief for losses, and awe at the intelligence and courage displayed. The humans had struck the final blow, but the galaxy now knew one undeniable truth. Humans are not to be underestimated, and Earth will always fight, survive, and rise stronger than any threat. Kale's voice cut across the command deck, steady and resolute. We strike because we must. We fight because we are human, and we never surrender. Today, the Council learns the price of underestimation. Today, humanity writes its legend in the stars. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, and civilians alike felt the truth of his words. Humanity had delivered the final blow. The Council had fallen into chaos. Earth had survived. Humanity had awakened fully, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The Council had fallen into chaos. Their fleets scattered, their systems disabled, their arrogance shattered. Commander Kale watched from orbit as the remnants of the Supreme Council of Varon struggled to regain control, but every move they attempted only confirmed humanity's unstoppable rise. Earth glowed below, a beacon of unity, intelligence, and courage. Humanity had survived the impossible, adapted faster than any empire could anticipate, and now it was time to cement their triumph. Kale's voice rang through the command deck. This is the moment we prove that humanity is not to be underestimated. Every strike, every maneuver, every action from now on must show the galaxy that humans fight with intelligence, courage, and unity. We do not bow. We do not surrender. We prevail. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers nodded, hearts pounding with determination. Every human knew the weight of this moment. Victory was not just survival, it was a declaration that Earth would never be threatened again. The Council attempted one last desperate maneuver, sending remaining squadrons to target orbital platforms and satellite arrays. But humanity was prepared. Pilots intercepted with precision, weaving between lasers and disabled engines, striking weak points with surgical accuracy. Engineers on Earth synchronized energy pulses, amplifying attacks and disabling Council weapons before they could fire. Soldiers monitored for any breach, ready to respond instantly. Humanity's coordination was flawless, intelligence overwhelming, courage unbreakable. On the Council's flagship, panic reigned. Counselor Varon slammed his claws on the console, his voice trembling. How can they fight like this? They have no fleets. They have no advanced weapons. And yet, they dominate everything. Officers argued, strategists panicked, and coordination dissolved. Every command they issued was anticipated and countered. Humanity had turned fear into precision, chaos into strategy, and underestimation into their greatest weapon. Kale activated the final phase of the operation. Pilots moved in coordinated waves, targeting remaining Council vessels and command stations. Energy pulses from Earth surged in perfect timing, disabling shields, engines, and weapons. Satellites relayed real-time data, guiding every strike with surgical accuracy. Humans had no massive fleets, no weapons of mass destruction, but what they had was intelligence, courage, and unity amplified across the planet and space. Every move was lethal, calculated, and unstoppable. The Council's flagship shuddered as critical systems failed. Engines sputtered, shields flickered, weapons offline. Crew members panicked, scrambling to regain control. Varon's eyes widened in disbelief. They have done it. Without fleets, without power humans. He could not finish. Every counselor felt the same crushing realization. They had underestimated the wrong species, and humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement. Kale's gaze swept over the battlefield. Pilots executed maneuvers with flawless precision. Engineers adjusted energy flows to amplify every strike. Soldiers prepared for any council retaliation. Humanity acted as one organism, a force the galaxy had never seen before. The emotional weight was overwhelming. Pride surged, tempered by fear and sorrow for the sacrifices made. Every human, from the youngest pilot to the oldest engineer, understood that they were witnessing history, shaping a legend that would echo across the stars. On Earth, civilians felt the pulse of victory. Lights flickered, satellites aligned, and energy grids hummed with synchronized power. Families whispered in awe, children clutched parents' hands, and soldiers remained vigilant. Humanity's triumph was not only military, it was emotional, strategic, and spiritual. Fear had turned into precision. Desperation had become strategy. Underestimation had become irreversible victory. Every heartbeat, every action, every thought carried the unity and intelligence that had shattered the Council's arrogance. Kale allowed himself a moment of reflection, pride mingling with sorrow and determination. Pride for the skill and bravery of every human involved. Sorrow for the lives lost in preparation, training, and execution. Determination to ensure that humanity's triumph was not fleeting. The suspense had reached its peak. The audience felt it, the humans felt it, and even the Council trembled under the weight of human genius. The final Council vessels faltered. Engines offline, weapons useless, communication disrupted. Pilots executed the last precise strikes, disabling remaining targets. Satellites amplified Earth's hidden systems, ensuring complete control over the battlefield. Humanity had turned panic into weaponized advantage, fear into precision, and intelligence into unstoppable power. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a species it could not intimidate, could not ignore, and could not predict. Kale's voice echoed through the command deck, steady and resolute. Humans fight because we must, because we are human, and because humanity never surrenders. Today, the Council learns that underestimation is fatal. Today, humanity rises not as victims, but as victors. Today, the galaxy witnesses the true strength of Earth. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, and civilians felt the truth of his words. Humanity's triumph was complete, and Earth stood as a beacon of intelligence, courage, and unity. The Council scrambled, powerless, helpless, broken. Their fleets destroyed, their systems offline, their arrogance shattered forever. Humanity had proven that survival required more than strength. It required intelligence, courage, unity, and the willingness to adapt. The emotional intensity was overwhelming. Pride, hope, sorrow, and all mingled in every human heartbeat. The suspense had transformed into triumph. The galaxy had learned an undeniable truth. Humans are unstoppable, not because of firepower, but because of their spirit, their mind, and their unity. Kale gazed down at Earth, glowing with synchronized energy and illuminated cities. They will remember today, he whispered. They will remember that humans fight smarter, faster, and braver than any empire can imagine. They will remember that humanity survives, adapts, and rises stronger than any threat. Today, we mark the galaxy with the legacy of Earth. The command deck fell silent, each human processing the weight of victory. Humanity had triumphed, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Supreme Council of Veron had been shattered, their fleets destroyed, their command crippled, and their arrogance burned to ashes in orbit above Earth. Humanity had survived the impossible, struck with intelligence, courage, and unity. And now the galaxy stood in awe of a species it had long underestimated. Commander Kale watched from orbit, heart pounding, eyes steady, knowing this was the moment that would define humanity's place among the stars forever. Every heartbeat on Earth and in orbit carried the weight of victory, of survival, of legacy. Kale's gaze swept across the battlefield. Pilots hovered above the crippled council vessels, Orbital platforms pulsed with synchronized energy, satellites transmitted constant updates, and every human, soldier, engineer, pilot, or civilian, was connected in a web of purpose and courage. Humanity had not only defended their planet, they had turned the tables, proving that intelligence, strategy, and unity could triumph over the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The suspense that had gripped the universe for days now transformed into awe, pride, and quiet relief. On Earth, civilians felt the pulse of triumph through the planet itself. Lights flickered in synchronized rhythm, sensors and communication grids hummed with life, and ancient devices, once dormant, radiated energy that symbolized humanity's awakening. Families embraced, tears of relief and joy streaming down faces that had lived through the fear of annihilation. Children stared at the sky, wide-eyed, imagining a future where humans were no longer vulnerable but respected and feared in equal measure. Soldiers and engineers exchanged glances, knowing that their unity and sacrifice had achieved what no empire thought possible: Earth's survival and humanity's rightful place in the galaxy. Counselor Varen, aboard the crippled flagship, stared in disbelief at the destruction humans had wrought without the use of massive fleets or ancient superweapons. His voice trembled with awe and fear. They are human, and yet, they have defeated us. How can a species so small, so underestimated, hold such power? Other counselors fell silent, realizing that the arrogance they had relied upon for centuries was gone. Their legacy was broken, their empire was fractured, and humanity, the species they had mocked, had secured its legacy with intelligence, courage, and unity. Kale activated the final phase of the operation. Orbital platforms stabilized, energy pulses harmonized perfectly with satellites, and human pilots executed maneuvers that displayed both precision and artistry. Every strike, every calculated move, ensured that no council vessel could recover. Humanity did not destroy for revenge. They acted to secure peace, to prove that Earth's defenders were not to be underestimated, and to demonstrate that intelligence and unity could overcome any arrogance. The emotional tension was overwhelming, a blend of triumph, relief, and awe that surged through every human and reached even the distant observers across the galaxy. The Council's surviving forces attempted to regroup, but the humans anticipated every move. Pilots intercepted escape vectors, engineers amplified planetary energy flows, and satellites jammed remaining communication channels. The Council's panic was complete. Every attempt to regain control failed. Every hesitation, every fear-driven order, every moment of doubt amplified humanity's advantage. The galaxy watched as a species once dismissed as weak rose, united, intelligent, and unstoppable. Kale addressed his lieutenants and pilots. "We fight because we must. We survive because we are human. We prevail because humanity never surrenders. Today we do not destroy blindly. Today we secure our legacy. Every human on Earth and above has written history. Every act, every decision, every sacrifice matters. Humanity has risen, and the galaxy will never forget it." His words resonated across the command deck, through every orbital platform, and through the energy networks synchronized across the planet. Humans understood the magnitude of their achievement. The suspense, fear, and anticipation that had gripped them for so long transformed into pride, awe, and an unshakable sense of purpose. On Earth, children watched the night sky alight with energy and activity. Parents whispered explanations of the events, telling tales of bravery, intelligence, and unity. Scientists monitored the last adjustments to the planet's hidden systems, ensuring stability and preparedness for any future threat. Soldiers maintained vigilance but smiled quietly, knowing humanity had proven its strength. The planet itself seemed to breathe with triumph, every pulse a testament to the species it had nurtured for millennia. Counselor Varen and the remaining counselors faced the undeniable truth. Their arrogance had failed, their empire faltered, and humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement. Varen's voice, barely audible, carried resignation and awe. "They are humans. They think differently. They act with unity. They are stronger than we imagined. They will endure. We have been defeated, not by firepower, but by intelligence, courage, and unity. We underestimated the wrong species. Kale watched Earth below, its continents glowing with life, energy systems humming in perfect synchronization, and humanity standing proud. They will remember us, he whispered. They will remember that humans fight smarter, braver, and stronger than any empire could imagine. They will remember that arrogance is fatal. They will remember that humanity survives, adapts, and rises, always. His words carried weight far beyond the command deck. Every human felt it. Every citizen understood it. Humanity had survived impossible odds and emerged victorious. The Council's fleets, broken and scattered, drifted helplessly. Their flagship, once a symbol of dominance, now floated powerless, a testament to human ingenuity and unity. Humanity had secured not just survival, but a legacy that would endure across the stars. Every heartbeat, every action, every sacrifice had been part of this moment. Pride and sorrow intertwined as humans processed the weight of victory. The galaxy had learned an undeniable truth. Humans are not to be underestimated, and Earth's defenders will always rise, no matter the threat. Kale stood in silence, letting the enormity of the moment sink in. Pilots hovered in orbit, engineers monitored energy flows, soldiers prepared for any final contingency, and civilians below watched the sky in awe. Humanity's triumph was complete. Earth had survived. The Supreme Council of Veron had been defeated, and humanity's legacy, intelligence, courage, unity, and resilience, was etched into the fabric of the galaxy forever. The planet glowed beneath him, alive with energy, hope, and determination. "This is our legacy," Kale said softly, voice filled with emotion. "We fight, we survive, we rise. Humanity endures. Humanity prevails. And the galaxy will never forget it." Across every continent, in every orbit, and through every heartbeat, humans celebrated not just victory, but the enduring truth. Blood, courage, and unity are stronger than arrogance, lies, and fear. Humanity had written its legend in the stars, and it would never be erased.